Hey there, this is Greg from Purpose Blogger, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to create a book cover with Canva. Now I'm not talking about an ebook cover. I have a link to that in the upper right. I'm talking about an actual book cover for a published book. And that's more difficult for a couple reasons. One, depending on the size of the book, the number of pages, you're going to have a different size cover because that spine of the book is going to be wider with more pages in your book. And then you also have to worry about the bleed. Whenever you print something off like this, it's printed off larger than the actual size of the final cover because they're going to trim it down so you don't have that white space. So I'll tell you how to tackle all these problems, and it's actually really easy once you just know the steps. So we're going to go through all the steps in this video, and we'll get you all set on how to create a book cover in Canva. So the first step is just deciding on the platform where you're going to publish your book and then understanding the print specifications that they require for your book cover. So I'm going to go over to Kindle Direct Publishing, and Kindle Direct Publishing is a self-publishing platform for Amazon, and that's the example we're going to use in this tutorial. Now, there are lots of different self-publishing platforms. You just want to make sure that if you choose a different platform, you go and you find the specifications for that platform. Because if you don't match up your book cover with the specifications for your platform, then you may end up sinking in a lot of money to get your book published, and then you don't want to do that and have a cover that just comes out wrong. So we are going to use the Kindle Direct Publishing platform for this example, but if you publish through something else, just make sure you find those specifications you need. And the great thing is most of these places are going to generate the template you need for your design. So search on the platform you're publishing for, see if they have one of these template generators, and if not, at least make sure you find size guides, size dimensions, and specifications for the project you're taking on. So I will link this below. This is the template generator for Kindle Direct Publishing, and this is the starting point you want. So the first thing you're going to do once you go in here is just select the final trim size of your book. So for this example, we'll just go with 5x8. That's absolutely fine. And then this page count is important because the size of your book, you can imagine as your book has more and more pages, that spine of your book is going to be larger and larger. So you have to know the page count. So you want to have your book designed out ahead of time and then save this cover design, actually creating this final file. Maybe you have an idea of what your design is going to be, but actually creating the book cover itself, you want to wait until the end to come in and do this because you need to know the page count. So let's say you're doing a 250 page book. You would put that in as a page count, and the paper color here, we're not so concerned about that. We're just generating our template, which we're going to use for our final design. But so once you do that, all you do is come in here and click this download cover template, and it's going to generate the files you need for creating this book cover. So I will just save this somewhere on my computer, and then we'll jump into Canva and we'll see how all this works. Okay, so it's generated a zip file with my template. I just came here to show you what this contains. If I click into this we will see contains another folder here, and within the folder, all it did was generate a PDF file and a PNG. Now this PNG is all we're really going to need for this project here because we're going to bring that into Canva next. But first I'll show you, let me just back out here. So this is a zip file, so you will need to extract this first. I have 7-zip on my computer, which is just a cool open source tool for unzipping archives like this. I'll post a link down below with that and any other resources I use in this tutorial if you want to check those out. But anyways, you probably have something to unzip files like this on your computer, but if not, you can check it out and find a tool that you need. So I'll just extract that here, and all it's doing now is extracting that folder. And so now in that folder, I have that PDF, and then of course the PNG with that template that we're going to use now in Canva. So I will jump over to Canva, and we will see how we take this to our final book cover design. So actually, one more important step before we jump over in Canva, I want to make note of the size of this PNG that we've downloaded, because this is going to be our guide for what size project we are creating in Canva. So I'm just going to hover over this for a second. It's going to show me this is 3244 by 2475 pixels, and so I am going to use that guide when I create this document in Canva. Now, if for some reason you're not seeing your size dimensions there are different things you can do here. For example, if I come in here and I just change the way I'm viewing this and I go to details, then a lot of times you're going to see a size there, but it may not show you something in pixels. So if I go down to dimensions, it's going to show me then there. So you may have to fool around and just do what you need to do to pick up those size dimensions of that PNG. And now we're going to jump over into Canva and we're going to start to make this book cover design. So here I am in Canva, and create a new design, what you want to do is you want to create a custom design. So when you're in Canva here, if you use this left menu and you click on Create Design, you'll have this Custom Dimensions option up top, and that is what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to create this design with those custom dimensions. Now, if you didn't remember, you might want to just scratch down on a piece of paper. Let me bring this back up. You might want to just scratch down what the dimensions are, because if you're like me, you can't remember things for more than 5 seconds. So 32, 44, 24, 75. 32, 44, 24, 75. You want to make sure you get this right, because this is going to be crucial to getting that design to work and to creating a book cover that comes out correctly. So then once you have that, it's just create the design, and it is going to generate this file in Canva with those dimensions. And then what you want to do is you're going to now bring in that template that you created from the platform where you're publishing, and that's going to be your guide to making sure you get everything positioned correctly and that everything is going to come out looking good. So for this, you want to go to Uploads, and you want to click on this Upload an Image or Video, and then you want to navigate and find where you created that and save that design, that template. So I'm going to go in here, and here is that PNG file which I just generated. So I'm going to open this and give it a second to load up into Canva, and then I am just going to drag that out onto screen and make sure that this template, this PNG, is taking up my entire background. So it's loaded now, so I'm going to bring it over, and usually by default, if you're dragging over your first image, it's going to snap as a background, so that's good because it is now taking up 100% of the screen real estate, and that is what we want. So now we have within Canva this background, which is going to serve as our guide so that we don't make mistakes. So you have your front of your book, you have your back of your book, and you have your spine of the book. Now these lines here, these dotted lines, are basically showing you the division between the different sections, but then also where it gets, you get this pink orange color here, that is showing you the bleed area. And so in other words, you really want to stick to the white space of your design, any text and any elements that you do not want to be cut off. Because what happens when you print something like this, you want something that's going to have not have white edges, and to make that happen, they have to print it larger than the actual final design, and then they trim it down. And so all these areas that are in the orange color, the pink color here at the outer edge, those are areas that are in danger of being trimmed when they do that final trim. So you don't want important content spilling over into those areas. Those are areas that could be trimmed in your final design. So make sure you keep the important elements of your design in this white space. And if you do that, you're going to end up with something that looks really good. So now all you have to do is come in here and design this final design. Okay, now let me give you a few tips about designing this book cover within Canva that I think are going to be really helpful. The first is, this template that you download and you bring in here, it's helpful for seeing those areas as a visual guide, but also as I'm designing the book, I don't want to see all this text, blending with my design and stopping me from really seeing what I'm creating. So what I'm going to do actually now is build out my own guides, and this is very easy to do, and then I can actually just get rid of this whole background layer altogether. So here's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to just hit the R key on my keyboard, because the R key in Canva is just a keyboard shortcut for adding a rectangle. And then what I'm going to do is drag this rectangle so that it takes the place of the guides in here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm lining up these rectangles to the white space, because I know all the important elements of my design I want to be within this white space. Now, if I need to get this even more precisely positioned, I could always use this zoom button here and zoom into 100%, and I could check those corners and make sure I have them looking pretty good. But as long as you keep things well within these guides here, you don't have to get this exact. You just want to make sure you're in the white space here, because that is going to be the safe area of your design. Now, I want to have basically a rectangle that shows me this front cover, and then I'll use one for the back cover. Maybe I'll use one to show where the barcode's going to be, so I don't have any visual elements there. And I'm going to use one to show where the spine of the book is. So now I have the front cover here. To get this to the back cover, all I have to do is, with this highlighted, I'm going to use the Alt key on my keyboard, and then also hold down my Shift key and drag out a copy. So in other words, Alt to drag out a copy, and then Shift on my keyboard to make sure it drags out straight. And I will just line that up with the back cover like that. And then if I hit the Alt key one more time and Shift again and drag out another rectangle, this one I will then size in so that it represents the spine of my book. Again, take your time, make sure you get these lined up correctly so that you make sure your design is within that safe area. And so all I'm doing here is basically avoiding these outside areas that I know could be part of the trim. I don't care if I get these exactly right because I'm going to make sure I leave a margin within this white space so that I make sure none of my design is being trimmed. Now, the next thing I would do with these here is I want these to just be a visual guide, but I don't want them to impair so much what I'm doing with my own design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shift click these different guides that I just created, and then I will go ahead and I will take the transparency down. Actually, I think I have to do the transparency before. So I'll take the transparency of each of these way down just so I'll still be able to see it. So maybe something like around 10% is fine. And so you'll notice this more once I get rid of the background here. But so let me just take this one. I'll take it way down to something around 10%. Again, doesn't have to be exact, just something in that range. I'm going to take it down, something like that, something around 10%. And then I'm going to shift click to grab each of these. So when you shift, you can add to selection. So I have all three of these selected now, and I'm going to group these together. And here's the important part. I'm now going to lock these, at least for the moment. That way I can't accidentally select and drag them around. I want them to stay in those positions because those are my visual guides. So let me show you now. Also, I need to get back down to this background. So if I click on my background now, I'm just going to set the document background back to white. And when we do that, we see that now we have these visual guides, and these are going to be the guides for how we place our text and our visual elements so that we do not go into that bleed area, that area that might be trimmed from our design. And also, because I have this area locked here, I cannot drag my guides around. They are just there now as a visual aid. So now we're actually ready to get into the fun part, the actual design of your book cover. Actually, I realized before I do that, I did forget to put that barcode in there. It's okay if you make a mistake like this. You can either use this undo button up here, or you can hit Control Z on your keyboard. So if I hit that, I'll bring this back just for a second. And what I'll do now is use that R keyboard shortcut again to bring up another rectangle. And this one, I'm just going to put over top of this guide here, just so I make sure I don't put any visuals or graphics right where I know the barcode of my book is going to be. And again, this one I will take the transparency down a fair amount. Let me just come and get rid of this background like we did before, change it to white. Now I can see this barcode here. I'll take it down even farther. And also this barcode, like I did with the other group, is I'm going to lock this just to make sure. See, once it's locked, you can still select it. So you can select it and unlock it if you do want to move it. But when it's locked, you will not be able to move that. And so now it is just a visual aid, which is what you want. Okay, now the fun part. Now we get to actually design our book. Now there are a couple of different ways you could approach this. And neither answer or neither approach is right or wrong. It's just what is going to work best for you. So one, you could just design this totally from scratch. Maybe you already have an idea of what your design is going to be, and so you could start using the Canva tools and laying it out in here totally from scratch. Option number two is maybe you're drawing some inspiration from a design in the real world, maybe a book cover you see on a bookshelf in front of you. You could easily take a picture of that, upload that cover, and bring it in here just sort of as a background element like we did with these guides, just to use that to sort of mock up something similar in terms of the layout. And then the third option is Canva does have lots of book cover templates. If you want to use one of those for inspiration and even copy some of those elements to give you a starting point, you could certainly do that. And then obviously you would customize it so it made sense for your book. So we're actually going to do that third option in this example where we take advantage of some of the templates that exist within Canva. But there is one trick to this, and I'm going to show you that trick right now. Because if we go under Canva templates, one of the reasons why Canva is so cool is just that it does give you so many templates that potentially make a good starting point for a project. However, here's the problem you run into when doing a custom book cover like this. Because it populates this templates area based on the dimensions of your design, it does not understand that this is a book cover because Canva at this point in time does not have templates for book covers that are the spine, the front, and the back all together. It only has that front cover or sometimes that back cover as, templates that you can access in Canva. So these, it thinks we're doing a different type of project. So the workaround here is to launch another screen, another project window, where you then bring up those book cover templates, and you can copy some of those elements over, and I'll show you how you do that. So I'm just going to jump over here right now, and within here I am going to go up here and I will type into my create design. I will type in book to search for book, and then I have this book cover, and then it's going to go ahead and launch a project that is a book cover. Now you'll notice this is not the exact dimension of one of our pages, but that's okay because we can still resize and position things. We're just sort of looking for inspiration within here. So you're going to come in here and you're going to look through those templates, and then I'll show you how you can move those items over into your project. So I'm just going to click See All to get within these recently used templates. And if you don't like that, you can go through all these different categories. So if you were doing a romance book, you have a lot of options here, thriller books. So they have lots of different categories. And if one of these categories, lines up with the type of project you're doing, then you may find some good options within that category. Otherwise, just explore around and see what you like and find something that might make a good starting point. So I am just going to come down here, and so maybe something like this, or maybe something even simple like this. So if I clicked on something like this, and I decided I want these, I could then copy some of this over into Canva. So let me just explain how you would copy stuff over. What you would do is you would come over here, and with your page on screen, you would hit Control A on your keyboard, and it's going to select all of the elements that are part of this page. And then if you hit Control C, you're copying those elements. And then you would want to come over to your actual book cover design and make sure you have the page highlighted, and then Control V, and it's going to paste in those elements. Now, I want to point out one thing. It brought over this yellow color because in this design, it's just a rectangle. If it was a background element, it would not have brought that over. So you have to understand background elements aren't going to get copied over, but you can come into this design here and change the color of your background. So if I was going to use this yellow color, I think I will end up changing my entire background to this color. But first what I'll do is just move this into position so that this heading, this book title and everything are in position. So I'll just come over here, and again, positioning things to make sure things are going to fall within those guides I have for myself. So I'll position something like this, and of course then once I let go, because right now everything's grouped because I just pasted it, but if I click out of that for a second, then I click in, now I can start to position individual elements. And I'm also at this point in time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background color of my book, and that's actually going to make it easier to see my guides below. So this yellow here, I'm going to make this yellow the background cover of my book. Now, because I have it pasted in here as a rectangle, it should show up in my document colors. So I'll just show you what I mean. If I come here to my background now, and I come in here under my document colors, it's recognizing that yellow. And so I'll just use that as the background color for my book. And now since I have that, I no longer need this rectangle here, which is just this yellow rectangle. So I'll delete that. And the reason why that is helpful is because I've pushed that to the background now. Now I can see all these guides, and we're going to get through those guides. We're going to get rid of those guides at the end, so don't worry about these guides. They're not going to be part of our final design. We just have those rectangles in the background as a visual reference for ourselves, just so it's easier to position things. So now I might come in here and say, okay, I want to reposition this, and so I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to grab this and slide it over into position like that. I'm going to grab this and maybe position it down like that. This looks okay here. Obviously, I'm going to change this, and so maybe the title of my book is Creating. Actually, let me just do this again and hit Control A to select all that text, and I'll put Creating a Book Cover in Canva. Now, obviously, when you have a template like this, you're going to have to fool around with the size of text and things like that to make it work for your design. So I'm going to take this way down. So creating a book cover in Canva, let's try it at something like 104. And so what I would actually do is I might decide that I want to make this separate lines of text. So I might come in here and say, creating a book is going to be my first line. So I'll just make this a little bit bigger, and I'll go ahead and hit Control X to copy this out of here. Oops, Control Z, try that again. I'm going to get rid of this, creating a book, get rid of that, come in here. I will reposition this now. So if you can't click and drag it, you don't get the move arrows, you can always use your keyboard shortcuts to move things around. So I'm just going to get this so it's right on the line there, creating a book. And then somehow I have this text back again. So let's get rid of that text one more time. Okay, so now I have creating a book. And so now I'm just going to Alt click to drag that down. Oh, and so I see what's happening. These are grouped together. That's fine. I'm just going to ungroup these for the moment. And I'm going to ungroup these. And I'll just grab this to the side for a second. And I'll get rid of this one. And this one I'm going to drag up here and use those positioning guides. Again, if you need to use the Shift plus your arrow keys or your arrow keys by themselves, those are just cool shortcuts for nudging things a little bit at a time. If you just use your arrow keys, it's 1 pixel at a time. If you use Shift with the arrow keys, then you're moving things 10 pixels at a time. So creating a book cover in Canva. So that's my cover. And then I'll come here and I'll line this up. Do something like follow the super easy steps. And then I'll come in here and I'll update this with my information here. So again, this is just the fun part where you get to come in here and actually create the book cover that you want for your book. And it does take a little practice just understanding the Canva interface and understanding how to work efficiently in Canva. So I will mention at this time that I do have a 9-hour master course at Canva that's all about creating better graphics in less time, just about how to adopt a smart workflow and learn the Canva fundamentals so you really can get in here and work efficiently when you're working in Canva. I'll put that link down below with the other comments just in case you want to check it out. But now let's go ahead and finish up this book cover. So once I have this, then maybe I would think about doing my back cover. And so I might also say, I don't really like this element. That's fine. I'll just select this and just get rid of that. And then I may take this element here, these elements, and then I'm just going to use that Alt trick again. So select them all and then the Alt trick to just drag out a copy and bring them over to my page. I'll wait to use these guides to make sure I'm getting them lined up correctly. And then I also may change the color here on the back of my book. So what I may do is just hit R to add another rectangle to the screen. I'm going to change the color of that rectangle to something bold like this red. And then I will reposition it so it goes all the way to the edge, all the way to the edge, all the way to the edge. And then I could have it go to the middle of the spine, but I think I just want it to be the back page cover. So I'm going to bring it right to the edge there. And then I need to send it backwards so it's not in front of my text. So I'll use the Control plus bracket key keyboard shortcuts. You can also just come up here to the position and send it to the back this way or backward like this. But again, if you do Control plus your bracket key, you can start to bump it back. So I will bump it back so it's behind my guide there so I can still see this guide here. And then now that I have all that changed, I'm going to, actually I want to lock it in position, I think, just so it doesn't slide now. So I'll lock it, and that way I can select this without selecting the background. All this here, I'm just going to come in and I'm going to change this to a white color. I also want to change my lines to a white, so I'll just select over this, and it's going to make me do these one at a time. So I'll change it to white. Now, I'll point out that when I'm changing one to white, I could change everything to white except that it would change these on the other page. So I'm actually going to do these one at a time, just real quick. Just select the line and white. Select the line. This one's a little tricky, so I have to drag a box around it like that. Change that to white. And so this is really just a really basic book cover, and then of course I know that's where they're gonna put the little what do you call it, the code, the barcode of the book. And so the last thing I might do is maybe I'll drag a picture of myself in here. So I'll just go into a you may want your author picture on the book, so I'll just go under, let's see, uploads, no, actually folders, and have this brand assets folder, and I have this picture in here. I think if I click show all, yeah, I have this picture here. So I'll bring that up. I'll just click it to bring it on the screen. Now I want to flip this, so I can just flip it horizontally because it's going to be coming out from this side of the book. And again, because I'm positioning it here, things are going to maybe get trimmed off, but I don't care about, you know, the part that's going to be trimmed off there. So I'll just position it like this. And then that's just a little author picture, something like that. So this is a really basic book design. Maybe I decide, I don't really like the colors I've done with this. I could go in and I could change the colors. I could change lots of things. I could use a different design. But this is how you create a book cover. And I forgot to do the center spine, so let's do that real quick. So creating a book cover in Canva, I want that to be on my center spine here too. So let me just grab this text real quick. I'll use that Alt trick to drag it out. You could also, once you have something selected, you can come up and click duplicate and it'll put a new copy like that, but I'll hit Control Z to undo that. And then once you have something here, you can use this rotation. And so I'm going to want to rotate it until I get that 90 degrees. And then I'm going to come down here. Now again, I want to make sure I have it positioned well within that area so it doesn't get trimmed off. So I'm going to drag it down so I can see that it's clearly within that safe area, right? And then I'll shift and drag it up a little bit. So creating a book, and then I can come in here and type. Still an active thing. Okay, so I need to resize my box here so it can go more, add more text to it. Book, if I could type here, or if I could type or talk, creating a book cover in Canva. So there's my spine cover, and then I could come in and use this font or any font to do the author name. So I'll drag that down. I'm just going to come in here real quick. I'm going to put Greg Radcliffe. And I can see already that this is going to be too big, but I'll resize it once I get into position. So again, use your little rotate widget there, whatever you want to call it, that little spinny icon. And then I'll bring this down, and I want this to be significantly smaller. So I'll just drag in from the edge of there and put it something like that. So there is a book cover. And again, now, once you get to this final point, you can decide what you like and you don't like. So first of all, I don't like this red rectangle. Let's get rid of that red rectangle. I'd rather just have this uniform thing. Now, to get rid of it, I have to unlock it. But so now it's unlocked. I can get rid of it. I don't mind the white text. That's fine. This is where my barcode's going to be. That's cool. Now, this other thing here, these guides here, I'll unlock these and I'll delete those guides. That's where my barcode's going to be, but I can delete that. And you want to make sure you get rid of all these guides before you go to print it, because you don't want those showing up on your final design. So there it is. There's my book cover. I know that this is going to be on the spine. I know it's going to be within a safe area. I know this is going to be safe on the front cover. I know it's going to be safe on the back cover. I have some sort of weird element going on here. Something happened with this line. Let's see. Select that one. Let me just zoom into 100%. Something funky going on with this line, and it's bothering me. So somehow this line has had something happen to it. Not sure what. I can also see my line spacing here isn't perfect. So I could go in and I would make those changes, but I'm not going to do that for the purposes of this tutorial. You get the idea. This is how you design a book cover within Canva. And then of course you would come in here and you could go to the download button now. You're going to download that off as the PNG. You're going to keep the size format, and then you have something you can upload to your publishing platform, and you know that it's going to work because you followed the right steps. You found out what specifications were needed on that platform. You downloaded a template that matched those specifications. You use that as your design guide in here in Canva. In Canva, you can make all the creative decisions you want, but you can use those visual guides so that you end up with a book cover where nothing that you want to see is getting trimmed. Everything looks good, and then you have a great final result. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button below and hit that bell notification so you can get more notifications when we come out with cool tutorials like this, and I'll see you soon.